Hello everyone, it's me Clayton. I just got out of the movie theaters for the first time in over 6 months, and the first film I'm going to review for my big return back is Tenet, directed by Christopher Nolan and also written by him. Now, Christopher Nolan was criticized in the past for releasing Tenet when the COVID-19 pandemic was still raging on. Well, it still is right now. And even though his film is certainly quite complex in the plot and the sound mixing can be extremely loud, it's definitely a film that has interesting ideas, cool action scenes, and strong acting from John David Washington and the rest of the cast. Let's get to the story, shall we? The story is about a CIA agent, only known as the protagonist, played by John David Washington. After a mission in the Ukraine goes horribly wrong, he ends up in a world where the flow of time can be manipulated, such as guns being able to catch bullets, certain people moving backwards or forwards in time, and with this new world, with its new rules that he has to get used to, the protagonist and his handler named Neil, played by Robert Pattinson, have to deal with a Russian arms dealer who's trying to start World War III, played by Kenneth Branagh. But that's all. I'll get to the story without spoiling anything. So, when it comes to the plot, a lot of it is basically kept in the shadows throughout the marketing, and that's very much the case in this movie, where it can be difficult to tell what's going on half the time. Not because the story isn't told well, but more because you really have to pay attention in order to get certain details, or how to get certain rules of the world. It's really complicated when it comes to certain mechanics of the world or how certain things add up. But none of it's poorly written or poorly told. It's just that Christopher Nolan's used to writing complicated plots in order to make smart movies. But this one is complex even for his standards. Not to mention, while I do love the score in a lot of his films, this one can be so ungodly loud that I felt like my ears were going to explode a couple of times. And this is coming from someone who often listens to music on his headphones a bit too loud himself. But what I loved quite a bit about this film are definitely the visuals, which use a mix of both CG and practical effects very well. And if you told me certain shots that were done with CGI weren't done with CGI, I wouldn't have been able to tell, mainly because the technical marvels here are definitely what they delivered from the trailers, and even more so. And John David Washington, Robert Pattinson, and the rest of the cast all deliver strong performances. They definitely manage to get into their characters. They happen to completely take everything in the film seriously, no matter how convoluted it may be, and they always happen to keep you engaging even when you have a difficult time telling what's going on. Also, the action scenes do benefit from this film's central gimmick, as bullets can go in and out of guns, people can flail around at certain points, and you won't be able to figure out what they're doing until later on in the film. Certain elements of the film can be played out of order. Well, Christopher Nolan's style of out of order filmmaking is still staying true here, but I can usually tell when I'm in a flashback or when I'm not. It's definitely a Christopher Nolan film through and through when it comes to the dialogue, the writing, the effects, and the structure of the film. So it definitely doesn't feel like a pale imitation in the slightest. On top of that, when it comes to the dialogue, some people have given Nolan a hard time for his dialogue being a little overly analytical, or that it tends to prioritize talking about emotion instead of showing emotion. Here, it definitely still remains analytical and intelligent, but it sounds a bit more like how people in this field of operation would talk, since most of the characters are CIA agents or agents for other organizations or a part of organized crime. They definitely do sound the way you'd expect them to sound. They don't sound exactly like the ones from The Dark Knight Rises or Inception or whatever you want. Simply put, Tenet is a well-made action film that makes good use of its central gimmick, and its effects and scale definitely make it clearly one of the most cinematic films Nolan's ever done. So it absolutely deserves to be in theaters, and you should check it out when you can. I'm going to give Tenet an 8.5 out of 10. See you next time.